Hello everyone, how are you doing? This is Amanda and welcome to my channel. If you haven't seen me before, I am a guide and a channel for the angelic and celestial realms, and I also from time to time channel particular people. And today being July the 1st, which is Princess Diana's birthday, I thought that I would drop in and see how she's doing. And I'm really smiling because her energy's already here, has been here for about the last 24 hours, and it's very giggly, very infectious, and I think she's just the tonic that we need for what's going on right now in our world. So without further ado, I think I'm just going to get straight into it and welcome in her energy, okay? So I mean, she's already here, but I just would like to consciously bring her in for you so you can feel it as well, okay? So, yeah, July the 1st, 2020, and Diana was born July the 1st, 1961. So today is her birthday. I'm just spraying the Rainbow Bridge spray, which just helps me to connect in to spirit. And I've also got a rather special crystal here that I use to tune into all of the beings that I channel that I name the Heart Squad, and Princess Diana was the first one of the Heart Squad who basically is the originator of it. So, and she's giggling away already about that. I'll tell you about that in a moment. Okay, so let's just welcome her energy in firstly. So Princess Diana, creating the Rainbow Bridge, just welcoming in your spirit and your soul essence to be with us here today. She's showing me a cake, and it's like it's a bit like a wedding cake, but it isn't symbolic of a wedding. This is a celebration cake, and she's saying she feels like the fairy on top of the cake. So you know, the top tier of a wedding cake or a celebration cake has usually got a figurine that is dancing. She's saying she feels like the ballet dancer or the figurine on top of this cake. And she says she's going to enjoy that top tier of cake today, for want of a better word. There is a tradition, isn't there, that when you have something like a wedding, that you keep, I think it's you keep the bottom layer, or maybe you keep the top layer, I can't really remember, but the point is that it's almost as though she's wanting to enjoy the present moment, and the other tiers of this cake seem to be linked into the past and also linked into the future. So she's on the top tier and she's very present with us today. And there's a very strong energy of ballet and dancing with her today. And I may very well have mentioned this before in some of my other channelings with her, but it's how she's coming through today. There are also a couple of girlfriends that she wants to not necessarily bring in so that I channel them, or who knows, I never know how these videos are going to go, but she wants to pay appreciation to two particular women that she is around in spirit who inspire her and who she has formed a kinship with. And I will just tell you who they are, and then we'll go into their energy a little bit more later. The first one is Maria Callas, who was an extraordinary opera singer and who is teaching Diana about the higher octaves, I'm hearing. And the other one is Margot Fontyn, who was an extraordinary ballerina. Both women are extraordinarily elegant, and I would describe their energy as very goddess-like. And indeed, Diana, of course, has a very goddess-like energy. She's already given me the title of this video before we've even filmed it. And it's going to be something along the lines of, it's the analogy of the swan, the ugly duckling that becomes the swan. And as I started to just tune in this morning, just before I pressed record and came on, I suddenly felt really shy, and it was a different type of shy. I don't feel shy on camera ever, really. So, you know, I'm just sitting here in my room. There's no reason to be shy, even though I know a lot of you watch. and my hair has grown quite long because of the lockdown. And this morning I was very aware I was like hiding. It felt like I was hiding underneath the fringe, and of course she did that in the early days. She sort of hid beneath her fringe, and she still had that mannerism as she grew into an older, more mature woman, of sort of looking like that, looking up but down at the same time. And so she had the nickname Shy Di. So there's something she wants to talk about: shyness and growing from the ugly duckling into the swan, because she's saying we are all swans, whether we are male or female. But there's something coming through very much today about elegance and beauty and grace, and wanting to bring those energies into our world. I will say at the outset, before I start talking to her, because I've already been talking to her basically over the last 18 hours. I had a walk yesterday, and there was a conversation going on between her and me. So I'm just telling you what's already happened. But I know, because I run a YouTube channel, and I know the type of questions people want me to sometimes ask. I know that she has got no interest whatsoever in talking about some of the darker things that are going on in our society at the moment. Not because she's not interested, but it's like, it's her birthday, it's her birthday. And even though she's spirit, think about how you want to spend your birthday. It's not necessarily delving down into the deepest, darkest, bowels of Mother Earth and looking at that. So we may well do that another time, but we're not going to be covering that today. We're going to be having some fun together. And I did say to her earlier, I said, okay, so if you were still alive today, she would have been 59. What was the type of thing you would be doing? And I heard Claridge's. So Claridge's is a hotel in London. And I get the impression that she would like to have gone to Claridge's for afternoon tea, which is a very British tradition whereby you have, again, it's the 3 tiers. You have like sandwiches, scones, cakes. The sandwiches are all cut up very daintily. It's a tradition. It's very, very beautiful. And she's saying to me, I should do it as well for my birthday. Maybe if the hotels are open, Diana, I will do that, but I'll certainly do it another year. So she's saying, do it, because it's the embodiment of refinement and elegance. And she said, when you're in a very refined and elegant setting and you're being served refined and elegant food, and you have the privilege to be able to do that, she says, because I realise not everybody can afford to do that, but it's almost like a metaphor. It puts you into that state. And interestingly today, I went to put on my jacket, which you've probably seen has been hanging on the back of that door for about the last 8 months unworn. I haven't worn this jacket for years. It's actually a really nice jacket, but I felt I wanted to put it on in all seriousness. And I think now it's very much linked into this honouring of elegance and class, not class in terms of not something you're born to, something that anybody can embody. And what's interesting about some of these people that she wants to bring in today is that they didn't come from very privileged upbringings. They weren't born with what we call a silver spoon in their mouth, aristocracy. They made something of their life, and they embodied a sense of elegance, grace and class, which, as I say, had nothing to do with birthright. In a way, she's saying we all do have the birthright to behave in a higher way, to be respectful, to be dignified. She said dignity and respect seem to be qualities that are desperately needed in our world right now. She's saying there's a lot of ugliness out there, and there's a lot of she says, just say ugliness. Again, not ugliness in terms of what you look like, ugliness in terms of how people are behaving. So she's saying there's a calling from the heart of humanity to bring back a sense of dignity, manners, respect. She says manners will never go out of fashion, okay? Manners will never go out of fashion. And those people that are able to model good manners, dignity, treating people well, will always be, when she said, she's using the word favoured, but what she means by favoured is it feels it's like a state of godliness. By being like that, by embodying that, you're closer to God, because God isn't ugly, is what she's saying. Okay, God doesn't behave in an ungodly way. God behaves from a state of grace and love and forgiveness and respect. Keep going back to this word respect, and also to dignity. Okay, so and she's saying it's important to model this even in the face of adversity, even when you're having the brickbats thrown at you, you know, energetically, or when you see ugliness in your midst being played out, and other people behaving in a way that is distasteful. It's important to embody a higher way of being. So that seems to be very symbolic also about this tiered thing that I'm seeing, which has got nothing to do with hierarchy by birthright. It's more to do with anybody can put themselves onto that top tier, and it's got nothing to do, she's saying, with, she's not talking about wealth, she's talking about the inner embodiment, the energy that you have within you, whereby you claim your I just want her word here, you claim your innate goodness, is what she's saying, and your innate light. And if you see that you are light, and if you see that you are of God, then you don't behave in a way that is unbecoming of that position. You have a status because you realize that you are that. So going towards the analogy of the ugly duckling, the story of the ugly duckling that grows into the swan, the ugly duckling has within it always the knowingness that it has the ability to grow into the swan, even though people around it might point at the ugly duckling and say, you're this, you're that, you will never achieve, you'll always be sort of like the runt of the litter. That's my words, not hers. It's to do with the fact that it knows that it has within it the ability and the potential to grow and to evolve into what is already within it. It's the same analogy of, she showed me the caterpillar that grows into the butterfly. I did pull one card last night for Diana, or a message for us from Diana. And I'd show it to you now because it feels very in tune with this particular part of the video. It's from a deck which is Eyes of the Soul Oracle, which is very much linked into Avalon. So it obviously has a very sort of English flavour to it, I suppose. And the one that came out is this, and it is about sovereignty. And it says, become your own sovereign. Okay, so can you see that? Become your own sovereign. It's very much linked into the goddess energy as well. It says goddess sovereignty. So this is a calling to us to, that's what it says, to become your own sovereign. That word sovereignty is something that is accessible to everybody. I mean, look how peaceful that energy is. And those colours, isn't that beautiful? Let's just show her picture that I've chosen today. I've got two actually, just to show this. I meant to do this at the start. I love this particular photograph of her. Actually, she's wearing a jacket that's quite similar to mine, just a different colour. Yours was probably a bit more expensive than mine, Diana, but it looks really good, doesn't it? It's that it's like very pale pastel-y colours. There's something in these colours that feel important for all of us at the moment as well, to bring in a energy of calmness and tranquility. She's saying calmness and tranquility. She's saying, I know that you like talking about colours, Amanda. And she said, I was never afraid of wearing colour either. I loved wearing colours. So she's saying, in a world that's very red and angry at the moment, then these soothing, tranquil colours are like a nectar for the heart. She's saying the heart needs these soothing, tranquil colours. So she's giving me this, which I would say what is that? That's almost like a dusty pink, I suppose, like a dusty pink. I've chosen like a very pale aquamarine. She's also talking about pale peach, pale violet, and pale blue, which I suppose is this is what it is. So they are the those are the colours that she's giving me. Peach, rose, of course rose, because she was the England's rose, like a pale aquamarine. Oh, she's also saying pale mint green. Soft colours, and they're very, very soothing. So she's saying you can either literally wrap yourself in them by wearing them, or you can bring them into your heart. She's actually showing me them as ribbons of colour, and she's using the word ribbons of colour that we can pull into our heart, because she's saying the thing is, people don't realise is that you, she just wants to speak to you right now, you consciously are pulling things into your heart all of the time without realising that you're doing it. And often what I are pulling into our heart is brittle energy that is antagonistic, energy that is hurtful, energy that is painful. She's saying particularly if you are sensitive like I was. And she's saying a lot of the people that watch you are sensitive as well, Amanda. So it's this thing about when you're very sensitive, you need at this moment in time to be very careful that you're not just soaking up everything that's out there. And she's saying people are doing it unconsciously, and they're pulling it into their heart space. And the heart space is becoming contaminated by this very discordant energy. So she's saying you have a choice in that. And she's saying you can choose a different vibration to pull into you. So, for example, because she knows I work with colour, she's bringing up colour because she also knows I can articulate it. So the pale peach would be linked into helping to soothe and ease any form of suffering. The pale pink is linked into love. The pale violet is linked into forgiveness and prayer and a state of grace and connection to God. The pale aquamarine is just very soothing. The mint green, she's saying, is about balance. It feels very much about balance. Okay. She's also talking about balance in terms of your mouth. So it's a bit of a weird way she's told me this, but she's shown me when a polo mint. So I'm sure in other countries you've got all sorts of different mints that you put into your mouth. You know, a peppermint is what I'm talking. So in the UK we have a peppermint called the polo. Maybe she liked polos, I don't know. Anyway, she's showing me a polo. You put a polo into your mouth to harmonise your breath, to harmonise your mouth. But she's saying people need to be much more aware of harmonising their mouth. She's not talking about breath here in terms of smell. She's talking about, well, she's saying in many ways it is smell, because she's saying it's what's coming out of people's mouths is, we are all witnesses to the fact that what's coming out of people's mouths in terms of words and in terms of vibrations is actually foul smelling. So if people could almost give a tincture, she's talking about a tincture to the tongue. And she's showing me, those of you that know anything about the tongue and the physiology of the tongue, she's showing me literally right in the centre of the tongue. There's a spot right in the centre of the tongue, which feels as though it needs to be anointed. It feels like an anointing of the tongue, so that people start to speak more with love. I mean, sorry, this is me now talking, just noticing what you're saying, Diana. Is that okay just to say something? She says, yes, please go on. So what I'm saying is where Diana is leading us, I think, is to the passage from Christ, where basically when Christ ascended, we were given the gift of speaking in tongues. What that actually means is not just glossolalia, which is another word for speaking in tongues. It's to do with speaking with the voice of love, speaking the message of love, speaking the message of forgiveness, speaking the message of tolerance, speaking the message of truth, but in a loving way. So, and she says this will help. So I don't know, there's this center spot onto the tongue that she's just showing me. And she's also saying, it's almost like calm your tongue, calm the tongue. Interesting. Okay. and peppermint. For some reason, peppermint is being given to me. Maybe peppermint has a particular quality to it that is important. I'm just looking to see if I've got my fragrancy book. I want to look up what the meaning of peppermint is. Let's just see if I can quickly find it. LMNOP. Peppermint and angels. Spiritual profile of peppermint. Let me just have a quick look at this. It's just such a bizarre thing for her to have brought in. Well, it's not bizarre, sorry Diana, but you know. Okay, it says, this is from Valerie Warwood. Valerie Ann Warwood's book, The Fragrant Heavens. Oh, The Fragrant Heavens. Absolutely, Diana is fragrant. I mean, she was England's rose, and you know, roses smell absolutely beautiful. So there's this thing about fragrance. Right, peppermint. Why is she giving us peppermint? Peppermint raises the spirit to fuller understanding and appreciation of the mysteries that will eventually fully unfold for us. It stimulates and soothes, uplifts and calms whatever is needed. Those who are lethargic with thoughts that all is lost will be energized and come back into touch with their inner selves. Peppermint can also stimulate the dream time, using this time of physical stillness to bring information and understanding. The fragrance will not provide a shield of comfort in restlessness nor lull the senses. Instead, it increases sensitivity, awareness and perception, bringing an alertness even in the dream state, so we can remember and take in the wisdom of other worlds. Okay. Right, well, as we're talking fragrances, I'm now also just going to put on, if that's okay, Diana, an incense that somebody sent me this, I think, that feels just very perfect for our Queen of Hearts. This is called Night Queen. Night Queen. And it's got a very strong smell, actually, but it's a very beautiful smell. Oh, sorry, I've put some already into my thing. Let's light this. So if you see wisps of smoke going across the screen, you'll know it's the Night Queen. She says, in many ways, I was a bit like the Night Queen. What she means by that is she's showing me... It's interesting. She's got like an old sepia photograph album out that she was looking at yesterday. It shows to me as like a sepia photograph album that over the last 24 hours she's been leafing through. And it's almost as though, because it's the celebration of her birth on Earth Day, she's been looking through some of the memories from her life, and she'd like to take us a little bit down memory lane. And one of the things she's looking at in terms of the photograph was some of the nighttime visits that she made to the homeless charity. I think it was called Shelter in London, where she would just turn up in the middle of the night, and you know, she'd slip out of Kensington Palace, she told me, and she said, which felt like true liberation to be able to just slip out of Kensington Palace, where nobody was around, nobody would see me, nobody would notice me. I was able to go incognito and walk the streets of London in the dusk, and I would go and try and help where I could. Okay. She's actually referencing here the Queen Mother, I think, as well. Now, the Queen Mother, probably the Queen as well, but the Queen Mother was very well known in World War II when the Blitz was happening in London and London was being decimated by bombing. I think it was the Queen Mother, Diana's saying it was, who went out into the streets and went into the wreckage of these broken houses which had been bombed, and she went to be with the people. And Diana's almost like noting that was a good act of service that the Queen Mother did. And she's saying in a different way, what she's describing is the homeless crisis in our cities. When I was alive, she's saying, but it's got far worse. And she's just like shaking her head. She said it's got far worse. Is like a Blitz-like energy. It's like devastation. It's like people. It's not homes that have been bombed, but it's people that effectively have been bombed, and it's like the wreckage of their lives is just in what am I trying to say? Plastic bags at their feet. And I'm hearing the song "Streets of London" by Ralph McTell, which is very linked in to the homeless. There was a version of Ralph McTell's "Streets of London" came out in support of shelter, I believe, a couple of years ago, and she's drawing our attention back to that. So still, this thing about the homeless is very, very close to her heart still, and it's as though she wants to bring awareness to that, and she's saying it's going to become a growing problem, and she's very concerned about it. She's saying because of the state of the world at the moment and the economic problems that are happening in many countries, she's saying there's going to be a huge rise in the homeless. And she's saying what we have to do is recognise ourselves in the homeless person that we walk past in the street. We have to recognise the young girl who's sitting in the doorway with 2 plastic bags as our daughter, or as our potential daughter, or as our potential granddaughter. And she's saying we have to start seeing people in that light. We have to start seeing the broken man who has lost everything, who's on the street, and see that they could be our partner, our brother, our father, our uncle, our friend. She's saying the problem is a lot of these people feel as though they are friendless. It's as though they have been it's getting quite emotional. She's saying it's as though they've been defriended by humanity. It's as though humanity has turned its back on them, doesn't want to know. And she's saying because we are in quite critical times, and she's saying I know that and I honour that. And she's saying a lot of people are struggling at the moment financially. A lot of people are struggling emotionally. It can bring about a mentality of every man for themselves. You know, it's just like I can't cope with anything else. I just have to look after myself and keep the ship going. And she's saying that is of course true. You should always put yourself first. But she's saying, please, if you have any energy left over, please try to help each other out. She's saying because that's what true heart-centered consciousness is about. It's about what Jesus taught, which is that it's about seeing Christ actually in the man on the street. It's about seeing Christ in a number of different broken scenarios in our world and not walking by. Because when you're walking by, you're walking past Christ. And she's saying of all the work that I did, it's one of the things that I'm most proud of, that I was able to do that, and I rose to the occasion for that. And she's very proud of William, and also she's saying Harry as well, in terms of their work with the homeless. Okay, I'm particularly being shown Prince William because I know, and I've seen pictures of Prince William going to the crisis centre, the shelter where Diana used to work. I think he's the patron still. Okay, so he's doing a lot of good work there. And she's saying he often goes incognito as well. So you do see some of the stuff he does in the press, she's saying, but he does a lot of stuff that people are not aware of. And he learnt that from me. She's saying he will publicise something when it needs to be publicised to raise its awareness. But he's saying he doesn't need to do it to get himself into the papers. So there's nothing in his energy field which is like, look at me, I'm doing this to, raise my own profile. It's done from the right place, is what she's saying. She's also shown me Harry and Meghan doing some work as well where they are. And she's wanting to note that and acknowledge that as well. So she's saying both of my boys are trying to do their best and not forget the legacy of what I started there. Okay. Thank you. So that all came from the Night Queen. Okay. I hope you can smell the fragrance. It's just very, very beautiful. I wonder if it's a particular flower. Let's have a look at what it says. It says it's made in the Himalayan foothills of northern India. Doesn't actually say what the fragrance is. Oh, it does. It's a desert cactus. Night Queen blooms during only one midsummer night each year, releasing its allure, a sweet, sensual and seductive perfume. Now, there's something in this. So it's a night queen, is a desert cactus, and it blooms once on midsummer night each year, releasing its allure, its sweet, sensual and seductive perfume. There's something here about releasing our scent, by scent I'm really talking about essence, our energy. It feels like today is a big portal for Diana's essence, and the sun's coming out as I say it, literally the sun is coming out. Diana's essence to come in like a beautiful puff of smoke that stays. It's as though every year, she's saying this is true for everybody, of course, when you do ceremonial work, and she's saying what we're doing here really is ceremonial work. You've opened a doorway by which I can come through and speak to people, and I'm so grateful for that. But she's saying what it's about is just bringing in like a puff, a reminder of this heart-centered energy that she did have. Okay. So let's go back a couple of steps, guys. I might pull some other cards in a moment. I want to say something about other things that she's been talking to me about over the last 18 hours. Firstly, let's just also say she would have been 59 today. 59. So you're still in your 50s, Di. And she's saying, yeah, I would be clinging on. She's laughing. She's saying, I'd be clinging on to those 50s. She's laughing as she said it. It's like I lit this candle for her earlier. And there's 2 wicks I could have lit. I'm going to light the other wick now if I can without getting burned. But as I was lighting it, she was laughing and she was talking about, oh my God, 59 candles on my cake. She's saying that would just be too much. So she's still got her sense of humour, absolutely. But yeah, she'd have been 59. Can't believe it. So she's only 6 years older than me. It's extraordinary because, I mean, I grew up with her like a lot of you did. And I suppose as a girl, which I was, a young girl, I always looked up to her, and she knows this. But yet she wasn't that much older than me. She was only 6 years older. And the other thing I think we just need to, I'm going to ask her about this in a moment, but I want you to appreciate, because I hadn't appreciated it. She was 19 when she met Prince Charles. 19. I've got a daughter who's 18. And the thought of, her being thrust into the sort of public life that Diana had in a year's time, it just beggars belief, to be perfectly honest. And then she married him when she was 20, so she was so young. She was so young. So I'm going to ask you a little bit now, and I know where we're going with this because she's talked to me a bit about it. Okay, to explain this, I want to talk about growing into being a woman, okay? So she's this young, quite naive. Is it okay to say that? She's saying, yeah, absolutely. Young, naive, innocent, pure, young girl, which is what she was. She was a girl, 19. I mean, yes, you're a woman, but there's still a lot of girl in you at 19. Okay, there is. And so she had to grow up very fast on the world stage. And not just did she have to grow up fast on the world stage, she had the eyes of the world looking at her. If you didn't live through that period, you might actually forget the extraordinary coverage that was everywhere. She was followed everywhere she went. It was just a different level of craziness. So she had to grow up fast on the world stage. And one person that she brought in that she wanted to be acknowledged today, which I thought was really, really interesting, and I don't think you're going to guess who this is. He's still alive, by the way, is David Emanuel. Now, David Emanuel and his wife Elizabeth, but it's particularly David I want to talk about, was her dress designer. He was the person that designed the wedding dress. This is a picture of David and Diana, the 2 Ds. She's laughing as I say that, at her wedding. So there's David, and he's fussing over her dress. And I seem to remember when she got out of the carriage, do you remember? I think it was him who was behind her, sort of trying to fluff it all up because it got a bit creased. But there he is, you see. And I mean, it's not the best photograph that I've got of him, but can you see he's got that, he almost looks like Diana in a male body. It's really interesting. And it's not because she's not wanting to honour Elizabeth, his wife, or ex-wife. It's more that I feel that David is same soul tribe as Diana. I mean, when you look at their faces, David Emanuel's actually got this very heart-shaped face. see if I can get it up. It's very, very notable. But she wanted to bring David Emanuel into it as one of the people, one of the designers, but he was the first really, who really helped her to grow into womanhood. Okay, so there he is. Can you see what I mean? He's got a very heart-shaped face. It's very Soul Tribe. There's a big Soul Tribe energy there. Very much linked into Heart Squad. Very much about trying to help women to feel the best that they can be seductive if they want to be seductive, be demure if they want to be demure. You know, she's saying he had his finger very much on the pulse of what was needed at the time. And he also, no, before I get to that, let me just tell you, she also said, think about his name. So I was like, what do you mean think about his name? She said, David Emanuel, think about his name. Because our name is part of our soul essence signature, okay? So David links me straight back to the court of David, King David, okay? The court of King David. And Emmanuel actually means God is with us, okay? God is with us, as the smoke just goes crazy. So it's like court of King David, Emmanuel, God is with us. He's also, yeah, so she was just talking about him, and it was more like a fondness. There's like a fondness there. Again, it's like she's looking through this old sepia photograph album, and she's looking at this photograph, and it's like, oh yeah, I remember that. It's almost like she's wanted to do this. It's like she's sending her kisses out to him. That's what it feels like. It just feels very, very friendly. And when I say flirtatious, not in a sort of sexual way, just in a sort of playful way, a playful energy with him and her. They just feel very playful, and they feel very connected in terms of Soul Tribe. Now, the one other thing I want to say about David Emanuel and this thing about helping her to grow into who she was as a woman. Do you remember that black dress that she wore when she did, I think, her first public engagement after they announced that they were getting engaged? And it was this really stunning black ball gown. It's this black ball gown, and it was very plunging. It was, it showed a little bit of cleavage, a bit too much cleavage, which the British press said. And she was still shy die, she was still shy die. There's pictures of her sort of like looking out from her fringe, and it's like, she's voluptuous, she looks like, well, she was a goddess, but she really looks like a goddess in this black dress. And it's almost as though there was an energy of not yet having been able to fully step in and own that energy of the goddess, okay? But he helped her. He helped her with that. This was an important stepping stone in terms of her stepping up to embodying the goddess energy. So again, she was never ugly duckling, but, grew into the swan. He helped her grow into be the swan. What was interesting, I'm going to ask Dana now about this, is that when I Googled the picture of the black dress yesterday, I came up with this. And it actually shows, this is Princess Margaret. And if you don't know who Princess Margaret is now dead, but she was the Queen's sister. And Princess Margaret, when she was, when it was her time to shine, as it were, she was, she was regarded as the most beautiful princess. She was very courted and sought after, and there's supposed to have been a bit of jealousy when Diana came into the family because she felt very usurped. And then I look at that dress, it's like, oh my goodness, yeah, that's like the same dress-ish. I'm sure it was done unintentionally. So I want to ask Diana about Margaret. Okay, I want to ask Diana about, she's saying, oh, she's straight away like, oh, do you have to? Okay, no, I do want to ask you, because there's this thing about rivalry. Okay, she wants to talk about rivalry. She's saying there's a very real thing with women. There's a very real thing with women when women have this energy of rivalry with each other, wanting to put each other down, being jealous of each other. And she's saying the truth is the relationship between me and Margaret was very strained. And there was this, do you want me to say it for you? Okay, I'm going to say this for her because she's very discreet and she's not into gossip, but it's more that she wants me to say that what she's trying to say is Margaret was jealous, basically. That's what it was. Margaret was jealous that this beautiful new princess had come into the royal family and had usurped her. Okay, that's what it felt like. Plus the fact Margaret, at the time that Diana came into the family, was getting older. It's hard when you get older as a woman as well, and you start to see, you know, your looks start to fade a little bit. Any woman of a certain age knows this. Okay, it's just part of life. You have to just get on with it. But it's hard, you know, if you've had a position where you've been very admired for your beauty, to then have somebody else come in who usurps you in that way. So there was some jealousy there. So Diana doesn't want to talk too much about Margaret. It just feels like a very, very strained relationship. And I'm still feeling in spirit, because of course Margaret's died. I don't feel that they sit down and have cups of tea with each other. You know, it's still very... There's no meeting place is what I'm hearing. There's no meeting place. Okay, there's no meeting place with these two. Okay, not judging it, nothing wrong with that. She's not dissing Margaret. She's not being offensive. She's just saying, it's just like we're chalk and cheese. We're chalk and cheese. So, but she does want to say something about this thing about women and women being gossipy and bitchy and to each other. What's that all about? She's saying, oh, Amanda, she says, I have to own my part in that. She says, I could be like that as well. I could be bitchy. I could be gossipy. She said, I could do it like the best of them. But she says, of course, now from where I stand, I realise that that's such a lower vibration, such a lower vibration. I have had on the tip of my tongue all morning this thing about gossip. And it's something like gossip dies on the lips of the wise. It's not my saying, I've read that before, as somebody else's quote. But it's like Diana was saying earlier about the tongue, you know, and being careful what you actually talk about and speak about. So, and she's saying, I can say this because I've done it. She's saying, I have done it. I could be like that. But I always tried to rein myself in, although not very successfully, she says sometimes. But from where I am now, I can see how harmful it is and how corrosive it is. And women should be supporting each other and building each other up, not ripping each other down. And she said there's too much ripping down of each other. Yeah, that's so true, isn't it? It's so true, so true. Hold on a minute, let me just get my focus again. There's something else coming through that's quite important. Oh, okay, right. Now, what's interesting is yesterday, as I was walking along the road, thinking about I was going to bring Diana in, and straight away, there's a load of male Heart Squad members who are just gathered round her. Okay. And even more male Heart Squad members that I haven't yet channeled who want to come through. But they were all the men. So, and I was thinking, like, where's the women? That's the bit I want to get to. So, for example, George Michael, absolutely. He's like, what's the phrase? Two peas in a pod. It's like they're really... Oh, it's so sweet. It's so sweet. I'm getting the energy of, you know, when you're when you're a child and you have like your best buddy and you go around everywhere and you hold each other's hands, you know, and it's very sweet and very innocent. It's sort of that energy with those two. They're very, very buddy. They're very buddy. And I've said that before. So George definitely around. Freddie Mercury. I'm just talking about Heart Squad. Freddie Mercury absolutely around. Michael Jackson very much around her. Who are the other ones? There were some others. Then Robin Gibb. Then she was talking about there are also other Heart Squad members that you haven't channeled yet, Amanda, that are part of the squad. And I was like, who is it? And then Robin Gibb came onto my headphones as I was walking and chatting and all this multitasking. That's what we're good at as women, you know. Build ourselves up. We're good at that. Men, if you're not good at multitasking, you need to take a leaf out of our book and link into your divine feminine and get into multitasking. It's great. Robin Gibb. There's a few other male, maybe they'll come in a minute. But anyway, those were the main ones. This is somebody else. Freddie, George, Michael, Robin. Anyway, there's a few others. There's also a few that are on Earth that haven't yet passed, but she wants them to enjoy their life and not rush up to see her. Anyway, I was like, where are the girls, Diana? What's this thing about? Why is it all the girls? Where are the girls? And it's really quite interesting. She's quite, let me get the right word, protective, I want to say. It's almost like quite protective. Nose is going, so it's true. Quite protective of her female friends in spirit, because it feels, I don't know, guarded is the other word. I want to use guarded. She's very guarded. It's like the women that she became friends with in life, and it's the same within death. She's quite choosy. She has, I think she had an, I don't think she realised this, but I'm deducing this from her energy. She had an energy of not suffering fools gladly. Okay, and she still has got that. So even though you see this very soft, lady with the open heart, which is what she is, she was also Cancerian, and as I'm doing this, I was about to say Cancerians also have claws, okay? Never forget that, Cancerians have claws. So it's like, and claws can also be used to sweep things away. So it's, excuse me, I don't think she has a lot of time, and never did have a lot of time, for women who are very sort of gossipy, girly, I don't know, I can't quite describe it. Well, let's put it this way, the opposite of goddess energy. The women that she chooses to be around have a very strong goddess type energy, as did Diana. She wants the women around her that are of a certain class. And what I mean by class is not, middle class, upper class, nothing like that. I'm talking what I was saying at the beginning, a certain dignity. It's the goddess energy. So I said to her, okay, well, come on, give me a couple of female names. And I struggled a bit, but the first one that came through very clearly was Maria Callas. And my God, have you seen did you know what Maria Callas looked like? I'm going to tell you who she was in a moment, but I mean, just look at the elegance of that woman. I mean, is that not a goddess in action? Is that not a goddess in action? Just look at her. I mean, she is like the swan. She is like the swan. I mean, how stunningly beautiful is she? I came back home, and I didn't really know much about Maria Callas other than I knew she was an opera singer. Googled Princess Diana Maria Callas, and what comes up is that I think this was last year in Paris, near to where Princess Diana sadly died in the tunnel. They are in the process, or they might have already done it, of renaming a square that was named after Maria Callas to Princess Diana. But it's all right, because Maria's got her own street named after her. So, it's like, but it was just like, I found that really quite interesting. And they were like having a laugh about it up there, because they don't care. Ego doesn't exist, in the spirit realm in that way. Let me just tell you a little bit about Maria Callas in case you don't know who she is. And then I want to ask Diana about their friendship. Maria Callas. So she was born in New York, born in Manhattan to Greek immigrant parents. She was raised by an overbearing mother who wanted a son. I think there's something that they share about having mothers that are a difficult relationship with their mothers, because Diana had a difficult relationship with her mother as well. She was forced to deal with wartime poverty and nearsightedness that left her nearly blind on stage. She endured struggles and scandal over the course of her career. She had a problem with weight. Now, we know Diana had a problem with bulimia. Maria Callas was a lady who was very, very large and who managed to lose the weight and become very svelte. She was very temperamental. She had a love affair with the Greek shipping tycoon Aristotle Onassis. She had a very dramatic life, personal tragedy. So, there's a lot. I can see why these two would get along. It's like coming from the weight issues that they had, the struggle that they had with their own identity, their own self-image. Again, the thing about growing from the ugly duckling to the swan. The mother issues seem to bond them. And also just this thing about living your life in the spotlight. But there's just like being the icon, okay? So Maria Callas comes in. And then the other one, sorry, let me just turn my phone off. Someone's trying to ring me. Is it going to stop? Yeah, stopped. Margot Fontyn, ballet dancer. I mean, the other thing that's really weird is, I mean, I have double checked that I've got the right pictures here. I mean, they almost look like the same woman, don't they? I mean, it's just extraordinary. Maria Callas, Margot Fontyn. So these are two of the female spirits that Diana hangs around with. Margot Fontyn was a ballerina, and Diana, I think I've talked in my other channelings, just had this love of ballet, wanted to be a ballet dancer, all the rest of it, met Margot Fontyn. So let me just talk a little bit about, to you, Diana, about these two women and why you brought them to my attention. Okay, she says, I love their qualities. So tell me about the qualities. The qualities are linked into determination, fierceness, softness, but yet toughness. It's this thing about, like, it's like the velvet glove type energy. There's this thing about endurance against all odds. Powerful, strong women who endured a lot in their life in different ways. Let's have a look at Margot Fontyn and her story just quickly. Margot Fontyn. She spent her entire career as a dancer with the Royal Ballet. She began her lessons at the age of 4. Yeah, there's dedication for you. Wow. Danced with Rudolph Nureyev. She was just a master of her craft, master of her craft. It's the goddess energy. That's what I want to say. It's just like this goddess energy. So she has this strong association with other women who are able to, who have risen to that energy of the goddess. But Diana is also about trying to help all women get to that place of owning their own goddess energy as well, that it is within all of us. And it's all very much linked into the age that we're moving into. Okay. Right, Diana, I'd like to ask you at this point, let's just put those wonderful women to one side for one moment. I'd like to ask Diana some questions now about where we are in the world at the moment and any guidance that she has for us, okay? So we've had a year of it, haven't we? I'm recording this in 2020, in July, and so far we've had, as just an example, we've had the fires in Australia, we've got a lot of racial division and upset and turmoil around race. We've had the virus, which has wreaked havoc emotionally, economically, socially, and we're only halfway through the year. So I'm going to ask her what her guidance is for us at this time. Okay, let's just see what she is going to say for us. So 2020, Diana. Okay, it's a strange analogy, but not really a strange analogy, and it's perfect. Diana loved tennis, okay? She loved tennis, she loved Wimbledon. I've spoken about that before on other channelings that I've done with her. And she's showing me 2 baseline players. Now, if you know anything about baseline tennis, players that play from the baseline, what they do is they whack the ball, which is basically the energy of what we're dealing with, very, very hard to the opponent on the other side of the court, okay? And then, so there's like this back and forth energy, and it's very, very strong, tough, direct energy, back and forth. And I feel what she's wanting to say to us is it's almost as though a lot of us, she's saying, are feeling as though the year is throwing a lot at us, which is the truth. So she's saying you've got to throw as much back at it, at life. Okay, does that make sense? Makes sense to me. So if we're feeling as though life is throwing a lot of stuff at us that is difficult and challenging, we've got to match that, as a tennis player would, by throwing back as much at it as we can. Now, what we're throwing back at it is the energy of love, okay? We're throwing back the energy of, let me just go back to her words. So what we're throwing back, yeah, she's saying you're throwing back as much love, as much hope, as much inspiration, as much determination, as much calmness, as much peace, as much fun, as much joy, as anything else that's sent to you that is of the opposing energy. So if you're sent a lot of fear, or if you're sent a lot of hate, or you're sent a lot of disorder and chaos energetically, what you do is you bat back with equal strength the opposing quality, okay? So as she said, which may well be love, hope, fun, joy, you know? It's like the more you give me of that, I'm going to answer it with equal measure with this, okay? And she's saying, make no mistake about it. You're the one that wins, okay? So it's literally like the tennis match. And oh God, I mean, I'm reliving, Diana, some of the old tennis matches because they're repeating them because Wimbledon's not happening this year. And we're seeing some of the great players of the past, baseline male players in particular. And well, no, she's correcting me. She's saying, no, not just the men. Okay, so we're back to the days of Martina Navratilova, Chrissy Evert. You know, they would back and forth. You know, but the point is that the person that wins essentially is the one that's batted back more of the love, the hope, the resilience, the endurance, etc. So I think that's a really helpful analogy, actually. So when you just feel as though life's coming at you and it's like, oh my God, what's going to happen now in 2020? You know, we've seen all the memes, haven't we, on social media? It's like, you know, just making fun of this year. You know, like, this is the year from hell. It's like, no, you know, we've got to counter that with, no, this is the year that helps us create heaven on earth, okay, is what is effectively what she's trying to say to us. But she's using the analogy of tennis. Okay, anything else, Diana? 2020. I just got the word inequalities. It's inequalities. She's just saying inequalities. It's the year when inequalities are shown for what they are, come up to be looked at, and don't disappear again. What she means by don't disappear again is she means that once something is raised up for healing, it has to be dealt with. There's no sort of just covering it back over again. It's like, oh, well, we can see this inequality in our midst, but it's sort of like, we'll just have a little look at it, play around with it a bit, and then cover it over and carry on as normal. That's not going to happen. So inequalities, it's a year of inequalities. It's a year of great imbalance. So what you have to do is find your own balance. You have to find your own harmony, and you have to find a way that works for you, which is going to be different from everybody else. How did you find balance? How did you find harmony? She's showing me sport. She's showing me, she used to go to the gym, didn't she? So she's showing me herself in the gym gear, that she used to go to a gym. And I think she did used to play. No, she's showing me swimming. She's showing me swimming. Okay, she's a Cancerian, of course she's going to be swimming. But, you know, sport generally, physical exercise being very important was one of the things that kept her sane, is what she's saying. But you have to find the thing that helps you to stay centered and calm. She's also talking about having a group around you of supporters. And she said there doesn't have to be a large number. In fact, she's saying it's much better if there's a limited number of people in this circle. She's saying the world has become too fixated on bigger and bigger circles of friends that aren't really friends, hangers-on, acquaintances, people that don't actually have your best interests at heart. She said this is one thing that many of those that you've channeled in the Heart Squad shares with me as well, which is that we all learned that you had to keep close to you just a certain number of people that you trusted, that you knew were on your side, that were there for you through thick and thin. And that core group is very, very important to have at this time. She's saying the core group also includes your guides, your angels. She doesn't want to leave anybody out. She's very aware of the epidemic of loneliness in society as well. I want to talk a little bit about that. And that some people don't have anybody in their circle. And equally with what we've got going on in the world in terms of lockdown that comes and goes, some people are left on their own. So it's like the circle of support isn't necessarily there in the physical, but it can always be there at some level, she's saying. So for example, it can be a phone call, it can be friends that are virtual friends, online friends. But again, just need to be very, very discriminating. Online friends, you need even more discernment than you do sometimes when you're seeing people face to face. So there's definitely this thing about making the circles around us smaller. It's almost like she's saying as the world explodes and goes out there, you know, it's like everything's exploding. It's like we've got to come much more into our own centre, into our own heart space, but equally have around us only a select group. I think that's what she was trying to get at with these two friends she's got in spirit, Margot and Maria, the two M's. It's interesting, isn't it? Like the two D's with David and Diana, and now we've got the two M's. Very, very selective. She's very, very selective in who she lets into her circle. And she's saying in life, I was very, very selective in who I let into my circle. And she said anybody that was friends with me in life knew that there were times when you were either in my circle or out of my circle. And she's saying maybe I didn't quite get it right in terms of how I handled that. I didn't always handle it in the best way. And sometimes I hurt people's feelings. But what I was actually trying to do was honour the space that I was in. And so if I felt somebody was against me, I didn't want them around me. She said I was very sensitive to all the nuances that can go on in relationships and friendships. And so if you've got somebody who potentially is stabbing you in the back or isn't on your side, why would you have them around you? So she's saying this is a time to only have those around you that really matter, that care for you, that are on the same page as you. That doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, in terms of people you've got in your family or you work with that you have to just rub along with. She's talking about people who you choose to have in your life, okay? But stay in your heart, stay in your heart. Your heart is the thing that is never going to let you down. The heart is always going to be the compass. The heart is always your compass, is what she's saying. The heart will always show you true north. The heart will never be distorted by any interference also linked into the electromagnetic fields and earth disturbance as well. So she's implying the electromagnetic interference that we have around us from phones, computers, televisions, you know, cabling that's everywhere, it's underneath us, it's around us. If you turn off your Wi-Fi router at night, which we used to do here, it's pretty pointless because everyone else has still got theirs on. So it's all going through your house the whole time, which affects your vibration, and it can affect your judgment and your mind as well. That's just one thing. And then there's the earth, which is also feeling very disturbed at the moment, the Schumann resonance going up and down. So she's saying the heart is always the true compass. The heart will always show you your true north. The heart will never lie to you. It's the... I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get the right word. Something about treasure, that it's like a hall of mirrors, she's saying, but it's also the treasure that is within that hall of mirrors. Hall of mirrors, what do you mean? She's saying the heart will always show you anything that is distorted and that is not of the right frequency. And the heart will always show you a true reflection of what actually is happening to you or around you. So it's like the fairground, you know, you go into the fairground and they have the hall of mirrors, and you look into a mirror and it doesn't show a true reflection of what you look like or who you are. But she's saying within the heart will always remind you of who you really are. It will give you a true reflection of who you are. We're back to that thing about the ugly duckling and the swan. Within the heart, it has the memory of who you really are. It has the memory of the beauty that you are, even if you don't feel that you are beautiful. Beautiful in the wider sense of the word, nothing to do with, you know, exterior appearance. It's to do with true beauty, which is to do with the quality and the essence that you have. You can. She's saying you can be the most beautiful person in the world, but yet you can be the ugliest inside. Okay, you know, in terms of the qualities, and it's because that person has turned away from the true beauty which is within their heart. Okay, and she's saying it's why she is talking more as a woman, but it would apply to men as well. But because she's a woman, she's talking from the female perspective. She's saying it's why as a woman matures, she actually becomes more beautiful. She's saying because you start to be able to see the more of the soul, more of the essence of the person in their demeanour, in their manner, what they've gone through, what they've lived through. You can see, you can read who somebody is from their face as they get older. Can I ask you, Diana, about the fact that you never got to be older? How would you have felt being 59? She made a joke earlier about hanging on to her 50s, but that was her having a joke. Although she's saying there was an element of truth. Yeah, I know. I'm going to ask you the question again. How would you feel about being 59? What would have been your thoughts? Give me a minute, guys. I'm just trying to tune into it. Interesting, I'm drinking from the Union Jack flag because there's something coming through here about the crown. She's saying it was never my path, never my destiny to get to that age anyway. She's saying, but I'm just trying to take myself there and what it would have felt like. She said, she's showing me a wound that would have been becoming pretty healed in terms of her relationship with Charles in particular, and everything that happened in their marriage. She said, I know that I would have been in a better place than I was when I died, in terms of coming to a place of forgiveness, just healing from everything that happened in the past linked into her marriage. She's saying, but I think if I was alive now at 59, with the changes that are coming to the crown in terms of new monarch at some point, and that's just because the Queen is the age she is. She said, I think the wound would have become sore again, because it would have brought up again all these energies of it could have been me. Because obviously if Charles becomes king, then Camilla will be his consort. It would never have been Diana. So she says, I think I would have found it very hard to have, even though I have forgiven and I've really tried. And she said, I think, if I was alive, I would still be a human being in a human body, and I would have found it very hard to see somebody else sitting there. Even though I knew it was never in my destiny, it still would have rankled. And I think, and she says, I would worry. I think it would have worried me, and it would have set me back. She said, I don't know whether I could have been as gracious as I would have hoped to have been. We've talked about her feelings about Charles and Camilla in previous channelings, if you want to go back and look at that. So I'm not going to go back into that. But effectively, there's a lot of healing and forgiveness that has happened there. Okay. So 59, yeah. She's saying, I'm really struggling to imagine what it would have been like other than that. In terms of my personal life, she says, she's laughing. She says, goodness knows what I would, who I would have been with or what I would have been doing. She says, I hope I would have settled down more. But she says, knowing me, she says, with my restless spirit, she said, I think I would always have found it hard to just being in one place, doing one thing, holding one energy for any period of time. Okay. So see anything else that wants to come through, then I'm going to pull a couple of cards. Anything else that you'd like to say today, Diana? I'll just tell people how you look. Okay, so if you just like to step forward a little bit more so I can just see you. She's showing me, again, it's from a photograph, but she's showing me that this is how she's looking. It's the photograph of when she was on the Big Dipper at Alton Towers, I think it was. And she was there with her boys and Ken Wharfe. She's bringing in the energy of Ken Wharfe. Now, did Ken Wharfe, was he the one that died? Hold on a minute, guys. And I'll go back to what she looks like. She definitely wants to like acknowledge a few people in her life at the moment. Ken Wharfe. I thought it was called Ken Wharfe. Ken Wharfe. Just want to check something. He was the Royal Protection Officer. Oh. Is he still alive? Why is she bringing up Ken Wharfe? He was a bodyguard to Princes William and Harry from 1986 and became her personal protection officer. He stopped working for her in 1993 but continued with the Royal Protection Squad until his retirement in 2002. He oversaw the security at Princess Diana's funeral. I can't find out whether he's still alive or not. Anyway, she showed me Ken Wharfe for some reason. I think she just wants to honour his service to her. That's what it feels like. It's like, I think he's written a book since and all the rest of it, but you know, who cares about all that sometimes? It's more about she's wanting to honour what he did for her when she was alive and also after she died, she's saying as well, her funeral. She's wanting to honour him. Anyway, she's showing me herself on that roller coaster. She was in with her boys and Ken Wharfe, I think, is in the back. And her hair is soaking wet and she's just got this expression on her face of sheer and utter joy and exhilaration. And that's how she's wanting us to see her today. Okay, not a victim, there's nothing about Diana that's a victim anyway, because everything that happened to her was predestined and was part of her soul contract. So she was never a victim, but she's wanting us to be happy and she's wanting us to remember the joy. And there seems to be something about being on the roller coaster. She knows that we're all on a roller coaster at the moment with life. And she's saying, you've just got to enjoy the ride, guys. You've just got to enjoy the ride because life is actually quite short. And before you know it, the ride stops, okay? Or the ride throws you off, you know? So it's like, enjoy the experience whilst you're here. There's much on earth that is fun, is beautiful, is joyful. You've got to celebrate those moments. You've got to honour those moments. You've got to appreciate those moments. You've got to invite those moments in as well. So, yeah, that's how she's appearing to me. She's got a black sort of leather-ish jacket on, bomber jacket, and her hair is short, it's tousled, it's wet. She's got a pair of jeans on. She's bit dressed down. You see now, Dana, I feel too dressed up. She's saying, don't be silly. She says, you can never be too dressed up. Okay. I'm going to just pull a couple of cards now from this deck, because I did get the deck out, and then I'm going to ask her to interpret them for us. So this is an Avalonian deck, Art Through the Eyes of the Soul Oracle. Let's just see, Dana, can you give us, so we've got Become Your Own Sovereign. Let's see what else you'd like to bring through today. The other picture on the back of here is this one, beautiful one. She liked her pearls, didn't she? It's a lovely photograph, that. And that choker, pearl and I guess that's a great big sapphire around her neck. This is also, oh, I can feel it now. Oh gosh, I can feel my throat going now. I can feel like I've got a block. Okay, so this is our block. Okay, it's not just my block. I'm not just owning all of this. This is our collective block. Oh my God. We need like a sapphire energy to go into our throat. Like she's got here. This is like a sapphire energy that's needed on the throat. Now, I do have a sapphire spray, and it's actually the peace spray. Look at that. This is the sapphire peace spray. We need to bring peace into our throat chakra. So let's just do that before we do anything. I'm going to spray it onto my throat, but I also want you just to tune into your throat chakra. I'm going to spray you. Okay, ready? Ready? Right. Pull that sapphire energy into your throat. And receive the upgrade is what I'm hearing. I'm also wanting to put it behind the back of the throat, Alta Major. I want to put sapphire there. In fact, I actually want us to wear a sapphire collar. That's what she's saying. It's like a sapphire, it's like one of those old-fashioned sapphire collars that go around the throat. But it's loose. It's like a sapphire silk. Just let it settle there. I'm going to have to look up the meaning of sapphire, guys. So she gave us peppermint earlier. Let's see what sapphire means. Sapphire is good for emotional balance, spiritual connection. Sapphire is a record keeper crystal. Helps us to connect to spiritual wisdom. Star sapphires enhance all of the above qualities. I think it's a star sapphire I'm being shown. Brings intuition, joy, fun, wisdom, good for fulfillment of ambition, dreams and goals. Good for emotional balance and depression as well. I'm reading from this book, Crystal Healer, by Philip Hermit, I think he's called. I'll put the link below. Okay, so she's there's something about the sapphire stone being very, very important. Funny enough, I nearly wore my sapphire ring today, but I didn't think it went with my rose quartz. But maybe I should have done. I'll put it on later, Diana, because she also had a sapphire ring. So there's something about the sapphire energy that feels very important. Let me just try and tune in a bit more. What's this sapphire energy about? Something else I'm not quite getting. Sapphire, sapphire, sapphire. It's got John Lennon here now. I mean, to be honest, this is a John Lennon version of the sapphire peace spray that we made last year. Can't get it anymore. We haven't made it since, but I've just got like John Lennon. It's like it's just peace, man. You know, it's just it's just very chilled. It's peace. It's peace. It's peace into the throat. It's peace around us. Look at that card on the bottom of the deck. This is sort of what I was trying to express earlier. It says, "Seek the guide with noble ideals, nobility." You know, this thing about nobility as being something you're born into. That was the word that was also on the tip of my tongue earlier when I was talking about grace and elegance and dignity. Nobility. We've all been nobility in other lives as well, by the way, if you don't realise. You know, we've all been knights and all the rest of it. So it's like bringing back these old-fashioned, which are not old-fashioned, ideals of nobility. Being noble. Being noble. What does noble mean? Let's just look at the definition of noble. Noble. Noble means belonging to rank, title, or having personal qualities or high moral principles. Yeah. This is all to do with us owning our own nobility and our own sovereignty. And as I keep repeating, it's got nothing to do with birth, actually. It's to do with the fact that we all have this within ourselves. And she's saying, hopefully that has a little bit more clout coming from somebody like me, because she's saying, I know it's a criticism that, you know, the aristocracy, of course, are from birth. But she's saying, I've done that route. I lived that route, but I was always able to see the nobility in others. That's what she's saying. I was always able to see the nobility in others. I was able to see the nobility in the AIDS sufferer. I was able to see the nobility in the homeless person. I was able to see the nobility in the sick child. I was able to see the nobility in the poor. It's like she sees the divine in everybody. That was her gift. That was her gift, that she was able to see the divine in all. Let's just pull a couple of cards, and then I think I'll close this down for today. It's lovely being in your company, Diana. Thank you so much for gracing us with your appearance. I've got my ears ringing now. Okay. Embrace the three worlds, dawning of the green man. Whoa, that's an interesting card. I'm going to have to look up the meaning of that. I mean, that implies, we've also got follow your heart on the bottom of the deck. Okay, follow your heart. Follow your heart is probably quite obvious. But embrace the three worlds, dawning of the green man. I've actually got, that's the green man behind me. Just move my camera. People often ask me about that picture. Sorry, I can't zoom into it, but it's the green man. The green man is linked into nature. And let's just read the words. That I've no idea why we've got this card. Embrace the three worlds. Right, let's see what she says. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's perfect. Incorporate a balanced judgment. Look from the viewpoint of the three perspectives, underworld, middle world, and upper world, in making decisions. The vision of this painting concerns the dawning of Celtic shamanism and the contemporary revival of the Western mystery traditions. The painting combines the archetypes of the male creation figures, the green man, the green knight, and Serenus. Antlers were considered a sign of divinity by the ancient cultures because they reached upward towards the heavens. In this image, the antlers span and embrace the three worlds of the Celtic shaman, the upper world or heavenly realms, the middle world or terrestrial realms, and the underworld or otherworldly realms. Entrance to these are pictured through the portals in the background. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I suppose I refer to that as above, so below. But yet, of course, in the middle is where we are. Okay, so it's as above, so below, and then we've got the middle there. So it's what she's saying is really, it says incorporate a balanced judgment, look from the viewpoint of these three perspectives, from a higher perspective, from a perspective of the underworld, and a perspective of what they call here the middle world, the terrestrial realms. And follow your heart. Pull one more. What goes also with this embrace the three worlds? I think there's something else I haven't quite getting to yet. What goes also, Dana, with this green man energy? Why have we got the green man energy? Why have we got the... I mean, the green man, okay, I suppose it links to fertility. Green man, why have we got the green man? Regeneration, death and rebirth, the great goddess. This feels to me as though it's a nod to... This feels like it's linked into Mother Earth and the death and the rebirth of Mother Earth. Mother Earth going through a rebirth at the moment, and the need to honour our roots and our heritage and the goddess energy. And it's a very strong goddess energy in this reading today. An honouring of that, an honouring of almost like paganistic roots. And it's funny because, let me see if I can just show you this Green Man painting I've got. You see, whenever people comment on this painting, this is one that Jane Taylor did for me. Okay, there we go. And you see he's got his little antlers. And people have always said when they see it, it's like, oh my God, he looks a bit spooky. He looks a bit spooky. Are those devil horns? No, they're not devil horns. They're antlers, okay? So it's almost like this fear, isn't there, of our roots, of where we come from, of our ancestors. Maybe there's also a fear here linked into the true power of the goddess. Anyway, those are the cards that we got. Let's close down just with any final message, as we always do. And I guess she's missing her boys on her birthday. She's saying, I am, but I'm always around them anyway. Okay, any other message that wants to come through, Dana, today, just for anybody else watching? Let's just close this down now. She's saying, on a day where so many people send me good wishes and thanks and gratitude, and she says, I so honour that, and I so thank people for doing that. She's saying, I just want to also honour and thank all the people who helped my incarnation on earth to be what it was. The people who were my friends, and also the people who were my enemies. The people who created great challenges and pain in my life, also helped me to grow as a soul. The people who brought me great joy and love and intimacy and fun. My family, my two beautiful boys, who gave me the gift of motherhood. And she's saying it doesn't matter how short a time you get at being a mother. She's saying when you're a mother, you're always a mother. So the fact that I'm not actually physically there now, she's saying, yes, on one level it's sad, but she's saying on another it really isn't, because you never stop being a mother. You never stop being a mother, whether you are alive or whether you have passed a spirit. And she's saying you can actually create even more, you can have more influence actually sometimes when you have passed to spirit. She's saying there's a lot of us mothers up here who still fuss over our children down on earth, whether they are 3 or whether they are 33. Interesting, she talks about the 3s and the 33 energy. So yes, she just wants to help lift our spirits today, bring in the sunshine, remind us to stay in our hearts, and to remember that we all deserve to be on that top tier. And as the video started, she is like that beautiful ballerina on the top of the cake. She's saying you're all the prize. All of you are the prize. Don't sell yourself short. Don't allow anybody else to make you feel as though you are not that. You are all sovereign. And you all have the embodied, it's this energy of the swan as well. I just feel so strongly with her today. But like swans do, they appear very graceful on the surface, but they're paddling furiously underneath. So there's this tenacity, there's this thing about keep on going, endure, endure, enjoy. She says we'll end with the 2 E's, endure and enjoy. Okay, I'm going to leave it there, guys, and get this up. Much love to everybody. See you all soon. Hope you enjoyed that. If you enjoyed it, like and subscribe to my channel, and then you'll be able to see more of the type of work I do, which is actually pretty varied. Okay, it's pretty varied. On this channel, I look at all sorts of things. I do readings linked into what's going on in the news, what's going on around the world, what's going on with you, and I post at least 2 videos a week. So please subscribe if you have enjoyed this. Thank you all very much. Much love. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Oh, hold on. There's just some, I'm not going to do this now because it's 1 hour 30 minutes, but just as I said goodbye, Marilyn Monroe pops in and it's just like, happy birthday to you. It's like she's doing it to Diana, and she was another goddess, so yeah, of course. Grace Kelly as well. They're all here. They're going to have a great party up there. Much love. Bye for now.